and I work on Helluva Boss. I'm currently the lead animator for the show, and we're going to talk a bit about what it's like to work on the show. We're going to peek behind the scenes today. So let's get started. So for maybe the two of you in here who don't know what this show is, what exactly is Helluva Boss? So it's an independent animated series on YouTube, created and directed by Vivian Madrano, otherwise known as Vivzy Pop. It's about demon assassins, and it's got a little bit of everything. It's got action, it's got romance, it's got comedy, it's got low-key some sex appeal. And with that, on that note, this is a show for grown-ups. If you're a child here or a parent that brought their child, look, you can stay if you want to, but legally I have to tell you to leave. But you do whatever you want. I can't stop you. Yeah, this show's a lot of fun. That poster was made by a colleague of mine named Samantha Ames. That's like my favorite image associated with the show. I didn't draw that. I wish I did. All right, so a little bit more about me. I'm just some random guy. So what am I doing here? As I mentioned before, my name's Brian. I'm an animator from the United States. And I've been in the industry for about 7 years, going on 8 years now, then it's, another new year. And before my current job, I've been all across the industry in North America. I've worked on shows like Archer and Hitmonkey, as well as the video game Skullgirls as a cleanup artist. I did a brief gig on Smiling Friends Season 2, and most notably, I've worked on Aspen Hotel, and then the show we're talking about today. I started on Helluva Boss just shy of 3 years ago as a freelance contractor animator for Season 2. What that basically means is I kind of just worked on whatever basis that I could. They gave me some shots to work on with a set pay, and I needed a job at the time on the side, so I was like, yeah, let's do it. But through some pretty good work ethic, I kind of stumbled my way into working full-time for the studio behind the show as animation lead, which is what I'm doing right now for Season 3. But let's talk a little bit more about Season 2. Video time. Make sure that plays.
Mox! Thank you. Oh, everybody look at me.
Not too bad for your first solo mission.
Really, sir?
No, not really. You're a fucking disgrace.
I'm a performer. I sing, I dance, I promote products that I don't actually use. I don't do danger.
Yeah, man. If someone wants to see you less and less, big red flag. If they give you chances to ditch, they probably want out themselves. Just want to be more passive-aggressive about it.
The special new guest of honor of the night, Stolas! Get up here! I am getting a real sexy energy from this room. Oh, there is definitely a fuckable spirit here.
But you're the one cleaning off the van.
Thanks, Luna.
Don't get used to it.
Fine. I suppose I created him kind to be obedient. I see no reason to punish the dutiful. Just axe the mouthy one.
Get your ass out of my face!
Thank you, Blitz. Thank you, Stolas, for saving my life.
Fear me, sweetie, let me explain.
I can't. You lied to me once and you'll do it again. Have a great fucking life with him, Dad.
What are you doing? Well, I can't fucking dance with you without, come here, getting inventive.
All right. Next slide, please. So that was all of the animation that I've done for season 2 of Helluva Boss. That was what got me where I currently am. In fact, I think the very last thing that I did before I got promoted was that big rotating shot of Blitz and Stolas kissing. So sorry for the spoilers if y'all don't know that happens yet. Yeah. So that kind of gives you a peek of like what our stuff looks like before it gets cleaned up and composited by other teams on staff. So now I kind of want to talk a little bit more about what it's like getting us even to that part of the process.
I am getting a real sexy energy from this room. Oh, there is definitely a fuckable spirit here. I am getting a real sexy energy from this room. Oh, there is definitely a fuckable spirit here. I am getting a real sexy energy from this room. Oh, there is definitely a fuckable spirit here.
So when we're animating, we don't just animate, from the first frame to the last frame. Most of the time. We have to plan things out in a way where the general idea of a shot is clear as soon as possible. So the first thing that we do when it comes to turning things in and submitting them for approval is what's called key poses. These are the main, most important poses or drawings that give you the basic information about what a character is doing. Like, if I were going to take this water and take a sip of it, the first key pose is me bending down to get it. Then the next one is me having it right here, and then the next one is me taking a sip. But once that phase gets approved, we need to add more context. We need to understand more how I am performing that motion. So how am I picking up the water bottle? Well, I start to lean down. That's a breakdown pose. Once I grab it and I'm halfway toward picking it back up, that's another breakdown pose. And then when I'm getting ready to drink it, that's another breakdown pose, halfway in between the main key poses that give you a much better idea of what exactly is going on. So then it's easier than ever to add the in-betweens. These are the drawings that are in between the key and breakdown poses that smooth out the motion to a mostly consistent 12 drawings per second, which is the standard in most full animation. We can get rid of a little bit more and a little bit less sometimes, but 12 drawings per second is generally the norm. And those are the steps of the animation process. Some shots are even more complicated than that. They require even more steps of approval to give us an understanding of how to make a more complex shot look just right. And so to do that, or to show an example of that, we've got 6 different passes of the same shot. And these were all touched by multiple different people, myself included. First you have the storyboards, and that's not even the first draft of the storyboards. That's a more cleaned up, on model version of them, of this shot from season 2, episode 12. Then animation was moved on to a very talented artist named Greg Zilla, who started an incredibly rough thumbnail pass of what the animation was going to look like, and continued to refine that in the top third example that you see. But then, due to certain circumstances, Greg had to let go of the shot and he could not finish it himself. So I was asked to pick it up and finish it. So then what I did was I cleaned up the key poses that Greg had and made them look more tied down and submitted those as the key animation. And then I took it to breakdowns, which looked kind of incomplete on that 5th GIF. But it gave me a general idea of what I was doing, all the way to the final product with the in-betweens, where that is the final animated version of the shot. And this entire process took several weeks, maybe even closer to several months now that I'm thinking about it. But that is what we have to do whenever we're planning out the much more complex and ambitious shots that we work with. How are we doing on time? Wow, very good. You might be asking, or thinking, or maybe not, and you don't care. What exactly do I do in this process? I am a lead animator, and while all that you just saw in that reel that we saw earlier, that was all my animation for season 2. But after season 2 and moving into season 3, I was promoted to be animation lead. And what exactly does that mean? Well, an animation lead is essentially a quality control person who looks at every animator's submissions for the show and gives feedback and notes to ensure that the show stays on model and that it looks as consistent as possible in terms of style. Because that is a question I'm often asked. Well, how do you keep the style consistent when there's dozens of different animators? And the answer is, it's my job to make sure that happens. So in addition to giving notes and corrections to the animator's work, oftentimes I'll do retakes that are kind of hard to illustrate here because, well, the ones that I've done are under NDA. But essentially that just means taking finished animation, going into it myself, and just sort of tweaking it a bit to make it look better in ways that would be difficult to communicate to the animator, through notes and such. So basically my fingerprints are on basically every shot in upcoming episodes of the show. Everything that we do and everything that I do even needs to be submitted to and approved by our animation director, among lots of other department leads. I communicate very closely with the animation director pretty much every day to make sure that the show's animation is the best that it can possibly be. And when it comes to I guess the main piece of feedback that I give my artists that I can visually demonstrate here, I actually did something fun, and I reached out to some of the artists working at Spindle Wars, asking if they could just do sketches of their favorite Helluva Boss characters for me. So this one is by someone who goes by the name Furtado the Tomato on both Twitter and Blue Sky. That's a drawing of Blitz that she made. Can you flip to the next slide? And that is a correction that I made. It's a redlining of that drawing with the assumption, or the hypothetical of, what if I had to note this for the show itself? Well, I would change up Blitz's horns to make them a little bit longer, change how his feet are oriented to make sure they're a bit, straighter on the ground, remove the teeth, because we don't draw the teeth whenever their mouths are just closed, make his necklace a little bit bigger, all these little picky style things that may seem like no big deal on an individual shot-by-shot basis, but are a big deal, and it adds up to the show style looking as consistent as it possibly can. If you can flip through those a little bit, yeah, so you can just kind of see the difference between the original and the follow-up. If we can move on to the next one, because I have more examples. There's Stolas, as drawn by Austin Calista. I already love this drawing of Stolas a lot, and I felt bad even changing it at all, because it looks kind of perfect to me already. But if I was going to go into, big grumpy boss mode, I would do this. I would make his torso a little bit more slender, his arms also a little less chunky, his hair or feather fluffs on his chest a little bit longer to avoid tangents, change kind of the angular style of his mouth, and narrow down his eyes. It's super duper picky, and it all adds up to something better. We can move on to the next one. This one's done by my buddy Mbani. Who's actually here today. He's in the crowd back there. He's here at the convention with me. We're both selling Helluvaverse prints at table P9 if you want to show up there later, just saying. But this is a drawing of Millie that he did, and there's the corrections that I made to that drawing of Millie. Changing her hair to be more like the model sheet, as well as her mouth, her foot, her hands, all that good stuff. To just make it look more on style. I already love his style, the way that he draws the character naturally. But again, if I've got to be stingy and I have to stick to the show style, that's what I would do to tweak it.
So with characters like Bee from the preview, I looked at her hair with the lava lamp stuff, and I was like, poor animators, because it looks really difficult? And like with characters like that with a lot of motion, are you guys more excited, or are you like, oh god, I have to animate all this now?
That's a great question, because it has multiple answers. We have felt both ways before. Sometimes when I'm in a good mood, it's like, yeah, I got to challenge myself with this one. Other times it's like, oh my god, this is due on Friday, what am I going to do? But most of the time it's pretty fun. But with characters like B specifically, or like with Ozzy, where a lot of their character design is effects work, that is highly collaborative between departments. The character animators do the stuff that kind of just stays mostly still, and then that gets taken to the effects animators to do things like B's hair or Ozzy's like fiery stuff that he does. I feel like I'm speaking on behalf of someone that's like beyond me, because I've actually never drawn those characters in the show before. I made a bee print, and that was my first time I've ever drawn bee in my life. And I was like, that's pretty difficult. I can't imagine how much work that was for the people who worked on that episode, you know?
Okay, so basically how you got into animating, but more in the standpoint of the process, and also if you have any tips and pointers on getting roles as an animator.
Are you going to be here tomorrow? Ooh, I have a panel tomorrow all about that. But I'll give you the short and sweet of it now. So you can basically learn how to animate in any way that is comfortable for you. I went to school for it. I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design. And if you can afford to do something like that, I encourage it for like social reasons and like making industry connections. But if you can't, I still think it's good to look at online tutorials and just practice the principles. And when it comes to like finding animation jobs, be as active on the social medias of your choice as possible, and just post as much things as you can. Draw the things that you love drawing, while never losing sight of the fundamentals of drawing. And it's a hard, cutthroat industry out there. But what's cool about indie projects like ours is we are always paying attention to what people are posting online. And you do not need a degree in this or anything to be good at it. You know, I hope that helps.
What was your favorite episode to animate?
It's not out yet. My favorite episode is in season 3, and I can't tell you anything about it. But as far as the episodes that we have done that I think I like the most, it's probably the Fizzerali like circus episode from season 2, because that had like the glam shot that I love, and I love just Fizz's like arc in that, of him like as we mentioned earlier, realizing like what he wants to do and who he publicly wants to be, what makes him happy, and all that. I think it was a nice little story, Huh? No, I can't tell you what season 3 episode it is. No.
How many episodes have you animated?
So if I'm on C, how many did I do in season 2? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I did 8 episodes in season 2. And are you tricking me into asking me how many episodes are in season 3? No. I've done 8 season 2 episodes and an indeterminate number of season 3 episodes. I'll put it that way.
So, what is your favorite music/song in both Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel? I'm curious of that.
That is a good one. So my favorite in Hazbin Hotel is the finale song with the show it must go on, that one. I like because that episode was the only one that I worked on, so it was like, yeah, the one that I was the most familiar with. But I loved it because I wasn't allowed to watch context from the rest of the show before that, so I was basically seeing the ending of the show without knowing how it began. So I was seeing a lot of a lack of context for something really big and explosive and this cool climactic finale, and I'm like, whatever this is a climactic finale to, it's pretty cool, right? But yeah, that's my favorite song from Has Been. From Helluva, that is a good question. My favorite song is also in season 3, but, no, my favorite song in the show, like for real, even beyond anything else, is Mastermind from the Mastermind episode. I had so many goosebumps while I was watching the animation process of that part where Stolas is like, why am I throwing my freedom away for this idiot? I was like, these guys are amazing! Man, I'm so inspired by my crew, I love it! I didn't animate on that part, I animated in that episode, but like, I saw so much talent there, both in like, like the music and in the animators working on that sequence. It was so good. I remember when like, people were asking in the fandom like, oh, when is there gonna be like a Blitz and Stolas duet? And then they thought they got it in the Full Moon episode, and I'm like, no, you didn't get it. That's coming up. And then whenever that episode came out and everyone loved it as much as I did, I was so excited about that.
Satisfied response.
Yeah.
So we were thinking, is it hard to like animate the musicals? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, it's pretty tough, but like, because everything's planned out pretty well with really detailed storyboards, and I think we're a pretty talented crew, we get by, we handle it, we make it work. But yeah, those are the more ambitious and challenging parts of working on the show that we usually get our like more experienced animators to work on. So yeah, it comes down to, the simpler shots are handled by newer people who are kind of just getting started with us, and like the big, like what I was just mentioning with the Mastermind sequence, we got like our like top caliber people who frequently work with us to do those parts, and they knocked it out of the park. Yeah.